Hi everybody, welcome to My Physical World. Today we are going to generate smooth contour lines. We are working with ArcGIS, and the study area that we're working in this lesson is the south central Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. This happens to be the traditional site for Mount Sinai, Jabal Musa, and Mount Catherine. All right. So, when generating contour lines, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. You can download any digital elevation model or any digital elevation model that you've generated through LiDAR processes or whatever surveying that you've used. And you generate this raster grid that gives you the three-dimensional data. Okay, you can simply bring in a digital elevation model and go over to the tools, find the contouring tool, and then base your contour lines off of that raw data. The problem with that is that you don't get the smooth contour lines that are typical in a topographic map. There'll be a lot of sharp corners and things like that, and you might get data that's not true representation of the three-dimensional space. So if I turn on these contour lines that I generated ahead of time, I'm going to zoom into an area around Mount Catherine, and we're getting these sharp corners, and we also, like in this particular case, I'm getting these contours that aren't really accurate. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to generate contours based on the actual mathematical model of the three-dimensional space. And in doing that, you're going to be working shortly with the focal statistics in the spatial analyst extension of ArcGIS. Okay, so basically, let's go over to the search and let's just type in focal statistics, and you'll find the tool under spatial analyst, and you click on that, and then double click on focal statistics. Here we're going to basically generate a brand new raster image. So you're going to bring in your digital elevation model that you've either downloaded or generated on yourself, and you are going to create a new raster. And what we're going to do in this particular case is I'm going to call this St. Cath focal 2, because I already have a focal for a different process that I did. All right, so you give that a new raster image. So we're going to be converting this raw digital elevation model into a new raster that uses a mathematical process to give a better representation of your data. It's more of a neighborhood analysis. Now the default is three grid cells by 3 grid cells. We're going to increase that neighborhood, and we're just going to go to 7. Okay, so what this means is that each cell in a raster image holds your elevation data. And each raster cell is, in this particular flow right here, it's creating a neighborhood analysis. For each cell, it averages the data around it and applies that average. It applies the average of all those values based on this neighborhood to that center cell. So in this case, each cell gets analyzed, and its neighborhood is a 7x7 grid, or 7x7 raster grid, meaning that center cell is going to be based off of 49 neighborhood cells, and that average is going to be assessed and attached to that center cell. So that's what this focal statistics is doing, and that's why it generates a brand new raster. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And depending on the size of your raster image, depends on how long it takes. Now I'm working with a small area, so it doesn't take as long. So here we have our St. Catherine's Focal 2 raster, and here is our original digital elevation model. Now it might look like it generates the same raster image. Now this is black and white, and my other one I have symbology, a color ramp assigned to it. But when you look at them both in black and white, they'll almost look exactly the same. Now the thing is, never use your focal raster as your digital elevation model when you're doing it cartographically, because it will be different. Okay, the values are different, they mean something different. Okay, so now that we have our grid that we're going to use to generate the contours, let's go ahead and turn these off. The next step is to actually generate the contour lines, which is really easy in ArcGIS. QGIS does the same thing, so if you're a QGIS person, you can still do the same process. It's just that the workflow is a little different. All right, so now that I have my grid that I want to generate my contour lines, I need to come over here and find my tool for generating contours. So we're going to type in our search box contours, and we are going to look at the contour for Spatial Analyst. Click that tool, and then double click contour. Now for the in raster, we are going to choose the Focal 2, not our raw digital elevation model. And then we're going to give it a new feature class, because it's going to create a line feature class in our geo database, or shapefile, whatever you want to create. Here I'm going to go ahead and create a shapefile, and I'm going to call this one St. Cat's contour, and let's call it contour 10. Okay, because I'm going to generate contours at 10-foot intervals. So I select that, and my contour interval gets entered here. Here I'm going to just type in 10. I only want a contour line every 10 feet. Now you can put 1, you can put 100, you can put 1,000. It will generate a contour interval based off of anything that you want. If you use a 1, be very careful, because contour layers can be quite large, depending on your study area. Now, in this particular case, I'm just doing 10 foot, actually it's a 10 meter contour interval, just so it doesn't take as long. So we have our contour interval is 10, and we won't talk about base contour and all that kind of stuff right now. So I got my environment set up, so I click OK, and this part takes a little while to do depending on your study area, and not too bad since I'm using such a small study area. So it's done. Alright, so now I have a shapefile called St. Cath Contour 10. And let's go ahead and turn off our focal, and we can zoom in. And now we have all these 10-foot contour interval lines, and they're nice and smooth. Okay? Now, if we compare that to the ones based off of the data, of course these are, oops, ones. There we go. The red lines are these are the 100-foot contour intervals that I generated before. But notice how jagged they are compared to the contour lines that were generated by the data-driven method. Okay. Now, there is another tool in ArcGIS that, let's look at the red lines for a second. There is a line smoothing tool that you can use, Python programming, stuff like that, to go in and smooth, for in this example, these red lines. But it can throw off your data, okay? It can throw off the actual contours in reality, all right? There are tools that will just simply take this red line and smooth them out, but the key here is, like in this particular case, this contour line coming across here isn't reality, okay? The green line is more reality, all right? Now, you can use those smoothing tools to just simply smooth these red lines, but the accuracy of the contour line might not be exactly what it needs to be. So that's why we generated this focal raster and then generated the contour lines, which kind of gave us a representative of what contour lines look like on a topographic map. Okay, now these are the green ones. I'm going to turn off the 100-foot ones because we don't need them. Now the green ones are 10-foot intervals. The next step that you might want to do is you want to be able to show these on a map based on a true contour interval. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into Contour 10 and we're going to open up the attribute table. And here are all of the different elevations. But we want to generate an index that indexes each line for being a contour interval. All right. So we're going to add a new item to our database called index. We're going to add a field, and we're going to call it index. And we're going to leave it at a short integer. Click OK. And it adds the field to our database. Now all of these are 0. But now we need to calculate a value inside of here. So we're going to right click that field. We're going to come over to Field Calculator. And since we're not in edit mode, you're going to get this warning. Just click yes. Now here's where we build our statement. So the item index is going to equal contour, and we're going to do a modulo which is a mathematical computation that will take a value and divide it by the number that we enter here. Okay, you can do a little bit more research on modulo, but basically it does the math based on the value that you put in the parentheses in the mod, and it assigns a series of numbers based off the elevations. Okay, and it tags each line that is divisible by that number. Okay, a little bit more complicated to talk about right now, but just do a search on modulo and you can understand how that works. Now, since I've built my contour lines at a 10 meter interval, I want to generate my indexes off of 100 feet. So every 10 contours is going to get a line, is going to get an index of 0 in this, starting from our first one. Okay, so I'm going to enter my 100 in parentheses, no quotes, just like this. Okay, so click OK, and it goes into the database and assigns values to each contour line. Now 0 is our base. Okay, these are the contour indexes based off of our very first contour line. Okay, and those are the ones that we're going to look at right away. So let's go ahead and close this. Then I can come back to our contour map, go into the symbology, and I can go by category, and I can choose contour. I can choose index because I want index, and I want to add a value, and we only want the index value of 0. So I click 0 and OK. And then I can turn off all other values and change our color of our index 0 to something that makes a little bit more sense. Actually, I don't want that color. I want that color right there. And click OK and OK. Now it automatically, in this case, only does the 100 meter indexes. Okay. Now let's open up this file. Let's double click this again. Now if you notice, when I did the add values, you saw the 10, the 20, the 30, the 40, the 50, and so on. Those are indexes of the next contour value. Okay, for instance, what we did was, by selecting 0, I'll give you an example. Let's say we want to start contour indexes starting at the 500 meter, the 100ths first, such as 100, 200, 300, 400. The 00s would be attached to that index equals 0. Now, if I want my contour intervals to be based off of the 10s, such as 510, 610, 710, I would choose this 10. If I wanted the 520s, 620s, 720s, then I would choose the 20s. So you kind of get the idea of what these mean, okay? So that's what all these different index values mean, okay? So in this case, I just wanted the zeros for the 10-foot intervals, okay? Now, I could go, if I wanted the contour intervals of 0, and I also wanted the 50s, I mean the 100ths and then the next 50s, I could add a value, go to 50, click OK, and make those maybe a little different. We'll give those a dotted line here. Sorry, I don't mean to take so long doing this, but let's just do this. Make them black just for fast sake. Now I got the hundreds and I got the 50s in between each one. Okay, so depending on how you want to generate your contour lines. Now, what about labeling? Okay, let's open up our properties and go to labels. We're going to label our features, but we're going to generate classes for those features. Okay, and the generate, we're going to come over here to an SQL statement. And wait a minute, let me cancel here. Let me go to change my field ID to contour because that's the value that we want. And go to the SQL statement and index equal 0. Click OK here. And let's save. Let's just use the defaults for now. Let's apply. And if you notice, now I have contour interval labels on my map, but I only have them for the hundreds. I don't have them for the 50s because I did not specify a query for index equal 50, right? Okay, and then you can go in and you can do some cartographic stuff like make them curved on the line, not below, not above. Click OK and apply, and it moves your indexes values to the actual line itself. Okay, so that is a quick and dirty look at generating contour lines using ArcGIS. Using a digital elevation model. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. If you have any tricks of the trades to do this, that's fine. Go ahead and leave them in the comments. And you can visit my map store to purchase any maps that I make at myphysicalworld.company.site. And subscribe and like and share this video. Have a great day. See you later.